Let's begin with the toughest question of them all. In your own words, can you define ventriloquism for us?
In my own words. Did you have that joke?
Go.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Schnappeldiep, abkap, tap, dumrap, simpfen. Those are my own words. I don't get to use them very much. No, but seriously, I don't really have a definition for ventriloquism because it's more than one word. It's more than one thing to me. Sometimes people want to know the difference between ventriloquism and puppeteering. And I say, well, it has puppets, usually, doesn't have to. And it involves talking without moving lips. That's the most obvious thing. But also, I believe it's an art form, and it has a history, it has a present, it has a past, and it will have a future. So, to me, it is very much a focus through which I can see life and our times.
Wonderful. What do you call this thing you use, and how do you feel about the word dummy?
The thing I use is my stage partner, and they all have names when I use them on stage, so I talk to them, call them by their names. Of course, usually I perform in German, so I don't even have to use the word dummy or mannequin American or sidekick or puppet or whatever, doll. I can use the German word Bauchredner Puppe, and there's nothing derogative about it because that's what they are. They're a puppet or a dummy or a mannequin. An image used for the art of ventriloquism. Bauchredner Puppe.
Great. Let's start with where you grew up and what prompted you to become a ventriloquist.
Well, I grew up in Germany. I'm German by birth, and I've always lived there, except for short spots overseas. And when I was a teenager, I studied the English language by listening to the television and trying to see movies. And movies in Germany are usually dubbed. So you don't hear the original voices, you don't get to see the dialogue the way it was supposed to be. But sometimes they broadcast old movies with subtitles. And I saw I Can See Your Lips Moving with Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy when I was like 14 or 15 years old. And that's just, it happened. I knew that was fascinating, and I loved the humor, and I loved the characters of Charlie and Mortimer. And I always wanted to know what was this? Why is it so funny? I never thought that I could be a ventriloquist myself. It just was something I was interested in. So I went to the library and looked in a dictionary and found some awkward definition of, throwing voices in ancient Roman craft and stuff. Didn't really get me anywhere, and I also almost forgot about it. Much later, I ran into a ventriloquist figure by coincidence on a flea market in Berlin, long before the wall came down. It's a beautiful, old, carved, pretty small wooden figure with a smoker unit with real human hair. Pretty crude, if you look at it, with a sailor suit. The estate of an old vaudevillian, nobody knew who he was. The people who had the stuff didn't know what it was, but I knew what it was and I bought it. And somehow I thought having a ventriloquist figure would make it easy to learn, but I didn't have instruction, I didn't know how to get by information, so I couldn't learn it. Learning was a tough part. I knew that it had to learn it. It's not a given thing that someone can do it. I wanted to learn it, and I found very little in the way of instruction. There are how to do it sections in different magic books, but they're not really good. Some of them are even designed in a way so that it's impossible to learn. To guard the secrets, kind of. But eventually I found the Mayer course, and that's still, to me, the gold standard of learning ventriloquism. To finalize, to finish, to complete the Mayer course, you have to give a public performance. And many people have completed the course without the public performance, and they can't graduate. But eventually I did. So I learned through the Mayer course, and I took it from there, and I found it difficult for me to learn, and that made me decide to try to help other people to find an easier way to learn, and that's why I started the ventriloquist course, the Bauchredner Kurs, in Germany. I lived in a city where they had a center for theatrical studies, so they had classes for African drumming or acting or miming or whatever, so I figured that would be a right setting for me to do a course in ventriloquism. And we treated it as a weekend course, and over the years we've done one in America. A good friend of mine, Stephen Knowles, did it at his place in Tennessee. I came over and helped him. He came over to Germany a couple of times to help me teach advanced ventriloquism. We did a big festival in 2003 with international performers. But usually I do 2 courses per year, 2 weekend courses with about 20 students each. And it's great fun, it's wonderful. In our event courses, there are so many different people from all walks of society. It's really amazing to see people who otherwise would hardly ever get together and talk. It's old people, young people. The youngest I had was 15 or 16, and I don't allow children in because it's a whole day and it's hard for them to concentrate. But I've had teenagers with their parents in the classes, and the oldest were over 70. It was an old lady who had seen a ventriloquist in the vaudeville days, and she'd always wanted to know what it's like. And she came for 3 courses to be our just, vent grandma, and she loved it. And we had a psychiatrist. It was very funny to have a psychiatrist. I had a judge of law. We had a taxi driver, a secretary, a speech therapist, a pastor. As I say, anything there. From all parts of Germany, from even neighboring countries. We had a guy from Holland, a family from Denmark. Circus clowns from Denmark came to the course. And I was happy, I used to be happy for years to be a closet ventriloquist, just have my figure and have my books and have my hobby and not perform, just, play with it, and that was quite enough for me for a while. But learning and knowing if I'm doing it right and how to improve is very much a matter of finding someone to teach you and to help you and mentor you. After I had done the mayor course, and that, of course, it contained it brought with it a membership to the North American Association of Ventriloquists. I got the pamphlet, the news events, and it has a swap and sell section, classified ads. And for a while, I just read that and try to find pictures. And that was before the internet. It was difficult to find photos and pictures. And eventually, I read and someone wanted to sell a figure, and I thought that's the one I want to have. And I wrote to the person, and he sent me photos, and I liked it. And I bought this dummy. And I didn't have a name for him. But as I said, I had to do one public performance to finish my mayor course. So when my professor, where I was working at a university hospital, had his 60th birthday, I performed there. And the place where we worked was called the Technische Orthopädie, the Hospital for Technical Orthopedics. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. And the abbreviation was TO, Technische Orthopädie. So I called this little character Theo, because he would know things that happened in the hospital, just, minor things that happened. He would comment on that. And he became Theo, Theo of the TO, Theo. And I was like, what's his family name? And I started to think and say, theoretically, he doesn't need one. And they said, oh, theoretical, so that's his name. And so the German version, theoretisch, became his name. He's a theoretical character, theoretical. Pass auf, das muss ich dir jetzt mal in Deutsch sagen. Das ist unmöglich, dass du mich hier vor der Kamera so fertig machst. Na und, ist doch deine Sache. Theo, bitte reiß mich hier nicht so rein. Theo, es gibt echt ein Problem nachher. Little do I care. Speak English here. Ist nicht immer leicht mit dir, ne? It is not. He said it's not easy with me. Oh, you translating this for me? Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say? No. Okay. I'm no dummy. Ich bin kein Dummy. Okay? Alles klar? Dankeschön. Ich bin kein Dummy. Theo, do you remember our first performances? Sure do. What do you think? What do you think? Now, looking back, how would you rate them? Weak. Shockingly weak. Well, I appreciate your being honest here, but, people may, it's kind of embarrassing for me if you say that it was weak. It was. You got better though. Thank you. And how are we doing now? Doing okay. Yes. That's all you can muster. Okay. Yes.